Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements that you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Or you can also send me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. So let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, what's the difference between using an underhand grip versus overhand grip when doing lat pull downs? Okay, so using underhand grip, also known as a supinated grip, also known as a reverse grip, which would be pulling the bar down like so. It resembles like a chin up, except you're doing a pull down. That's going to work more of your lower lats. Now doing an overhand grip, also known as a pronated grip, is going to work your upper lats. Okay, you can also do chin ups like that as well. But you usually see people when they're doing chin ups, they usually tend to use more of a supinated grip over the pronated grip. One is not better than the other. They both have their value. Again, it just depends on what you're trying to target. So typically what I'll have clients do is I'll have them do a few weeks of overhand grip, pronated grip pull downs, and I'll switch it up and throw them in some supinated reverse grip pull downs just to mix it up. So just to make sure that we are targeting both the upper lats and the lower lats. But again, I would make sure that you're doing both of these exercises. It doesn't have to be on a weekly basis. You could sub one out, sub one in from week to week. Like I said, what I'll typically do with most of my clients, so I'll put 3 weeks of, let's say, overhand grip pull downs, and I'll do 3 weeks of underhand grip pull downs, go back and forth. Same thing if you're doing, let's say, bent over barbell rows. You can use an underhand grip barbell row, supinated grip, working again your lower lats, or you could flip it around and do a pronated grip, work more of your upper lats. So again, that's something that I like to rotate every 2-3 weeks. Do one workout for back, we'll do a pronated grip, other workout, we'll do a supinated grip. It's good to get different angles. It's good to use different grips because you want to target all the areas of the back. Remember, the back is the largest muscle group in the human body. It's not the legs. A lot of people think the legs are the largest muscle group in the human body. They're not. The back is the most complex. So when you think of all the different angles there are to target the back, all the different grips, pronated, supinated, you have got internal grips, you can do isolateral movements. There's so many different areas of the back that need to be targeted. It's actually the largest area to hit. So again, to reiterate, reverse grip pull downs, underhand grip pull downs, work the lower lats, pronated grip pull downs, overhand grip pull downs, work the upper lats. All right, next question. Hi, Nick, what's your opinion on HRT therapy? I started menopause this year and would like to try it, but my doctor is hesitant to put me on it and says I don't need it. How does he know you don't need it? That's be my first question. Have you done your blood work? What are your estrogen levels looking like? These are all questions that I would be asking yourself before you go on HRT therapy. One of the reasons why a lot of doctors are hesitant to put people on HRT therapy is, so if you have a link, let's say, to breast cancer in your family, if you have a family history of breast cancer, right? So there's an elevated risk of breast cancer if you're on HRT therapy as a woman. With that said, though, HRT therapy has come a long way over the past 15-20 years. So when I first started training a lot of my female clients back in the early 2000s, most of the women who were 50 plus years old were not on HRT. Now, I would say about 85 to 90% of my clients who are female over the age of 50 are on HRT therapy. So it goes to show you how far it's come in advancement, right? So I can't answer that question for you because, again, it's a personal choice. But the one thing I would be basing it off of is your blood work, what your estrogen levels are looking like, and how you feel. I mean, if your doctor is saying, well, the risks outweigh the benefits, okay, maybe. But I mean, if you're not sleeping, you're having hot flashes, you're having muscle aches, there's all kinds of other symptoms that can come with hormonal imbalances, right? Weight gain, eating disorders. So it really depends on you as an individual, what you want to decide. But I wouldn't make that decision until I get some blood work done and see where your estrogen levels are at. And if you're going to a basic GP for that, I would personally myself, I would go to a hormonal clinic if it were me. Maybe go see a naturopath, but I wouldn't just rely on a basic GP to give you that advice personally. So again, that's going to be an individual based question. and an individual-based answer. So I can't really answer that for you. But again, if it were me, I'd get my blood work done, check the estrogen levels, and then outweigh the risk to benefits for yourself. If you're not sleeping, if you're having hot flashes, like I said, if you're putting on weight, your muscles are cramping, it might be time to go on HRT therapy, right? The same thing I tell my guys who are deciding whether or not to go on TRT therapy. I'm like, well, what are your test levels at? How do you feel? How's your libido? How are your energy levels throughout the day? These are all questions that people should be asking themselves and not just relying on a doctor saying, no, you don't need to be on that. I would just do a little bit of investigation first, research, and decide for yourself whether or not it's a good idea to go on it. Next question. Hey, Nick, what did you think about this year's Olympia? Did you agree with the top six placings? I didn't watch the Olympia this year. I saw photos and I saw video after the Olympia, so I saw how everyone looked. First, I'm going to comment on the actual Olympia. From what I heard from others, the actual show itself was terrible. I think the bodybuilders didn't even get to go on until about 11 p.m. Pacific time. So for those of you back east, that would have been like 2 a.m. So I think that's not good, especially for this type of show. This is like the Super Bowl bodybuilding, and for them to go on at 11 o'clock at night. Personally, I think there's way too many classes now. There's way too many classes. You got figure, you got bikini, you got wellness, you got women's physique, men's physique, you got the classic physique. It's too much. So what I'd recommend is to put the women on one day and put the men on another day. That's what I would do. And I think a lot of the bodybuilding experts out there would agree with me on that. So to comment on the show, I mean, there's no way that, for me personally, I'm up at 6 a.m. the next morning. I'm not going to stay up and watch a show at 11 o'clock at night. No, I'm not going to do it. But I did watch a recap of the show. So top six placings. I had no problem really with who were in the top six. I could have seen Samson and Brandon kind of flipping though. I mean, I had no problem with Hottie taking first. Derek in second. Derek looked amazing. I think he's going to be a future Mr. Olympia for years to come. I think he's going to be like a Phil Heath. We're going to see him doing consecutive runs. And then I think it was Nick Walker in third. He deserved that. The problem with Nick Walker, of course, is his structure. He doesn't have the same structure as Hottie and Derek do, right? So that's going to hold him back. Definitely, I actually think Nick was probably the most conditioned guy on stage. But unfortunately, that structure just can't compete with those two. And in fourth place, Brandon Curry. I think the reason why Brandon Curry got fourth is because he did look better than he did last year. So the judges awarded him for that. But personally, myself, I would have had him in sixth place. Rami in fifth, I agree with that. Rami didn't look his best. I think fifth is actually probably a gift for him. He could have even gone as low as sixth. But I agree with that. Fifth. He still has tons of muscle. I mean, he didn't look terrible this way what some people say. He didn't look like crazy bad. I mean, people are used to seeing Rami conditioned and massive and in first place. Well, that didn't happen this year, but he still looked definitely top six bodybuilder in the world. So he didn't look bad. But yeah, I can see him fifth place. I would have kept him there. Like I said, he could have gone to sixth. And then I would have put Samson, who was in sixth, actually in fourth spot. I thought Samson looked fantastic. First Mr. Olympia, and he placed sixth. I honestly think this guy is going to be possibly a future contender. He's going to give Derek a run for sure. So I would have had it Hottie in first, Derek in second, Nick in third. Top three they had perfect. And then I would have had Samson in fourth, Rami in fifth, and then Curry in sixth. And like I said, Brandon and Rami could have flipped fifth and sixth around. I would have had no problem with that. But that's how I saw it. But I only saw photos and videos. I wasn't at the show. So it's really hard to make that judgment when you're not there in person. But from what I saw with the photos and the video, that's the placings that I had everyone in. Don't ask me anything about the other classes. I don't watch any of their classes. I can't stand to sit there and watch bikini for 2 hours or figure. So I don't know much about that. But top six, I think they got it right. Nick, I have some money from my work benefits to use towards either chiropractic care or massage therapy. I don't have any serious back issues, but would like to use up my benefits before the end of the year. Which do you think provides more value? That really depends on what you feel is going to be more value for yourself, right? Myself personally, I would go with the RMT. I would go with regular massage therapy, especially if you're weight training, because I find regular massage therapy really helps loosen up the muscles and the tendons, and it allows us to keep more mobility and flexibility in those muscles and in those joints. So if it were me, I would be doing the massage therapy on a weekly basis. I have nothing against chiropractic care. I know it does have its benefits. Myself personally, I've never found I've needed any chiropractic care, so I don't do it. That's not to say that it's not beneficial, because I do know some people who swear by it. But again, I would be basing on, you say you don't have no serious back issues. So if you have no serious back issues, maybe it's not necessary to see a chiropractor. I know a lot of chiropractors will tell you that you should see them for preventable measures. Okay. But again, if you're someone who lifts weights regularly, I know there's tons of benefits with getting regular massage. And like I said, one of those benefits is a better mobility and better flexibility, which of course is going to equate to better range of motion in the gym. So you see a lot of people who, especially guys and women, who have a lot of muscle, but they're super tight and they walk around like this all day because they're so tight. And what happens over time is that really limits your range of motion in the gym, whether you're doing a bench press or a shoulder press, or let's say a dumbbell fly, because there's so much scar tissue built up in there, and you haven't had anyone get into the fascia to release a lot of that synovial fluid into your joints, into your muscle tendons. So I definitely think go to see an RMT is really going to be effective for you. And if you got the money for it, and or you have it in your benefits, that's what I would do. And that's something I would do on a weekly basis, not something I would just wait to the end of the year and load up for like 3 or 4 massages in 1 week. I would try to get on that at least once a week, because you'll notice a huge difference. I do it myself. Once a week, I go for a massage, sometimes twice a week. And I really notice a huge difference in my mobility and my flexibility because of that. If I'm going for 2 massages, the first massage will usually be on my upper body, and the second one will be on my lower body. The one on the lower body, the hamstrings and the glutes and the quads, that's killer. It's honestly, guys, that's one of the most painful massages that I have to go to. It's so painful because those areas are super tight. So it does help. It really does. I've noticed a huge difference when I started going for regular massage. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate of using massage on a regular basis. And if you can afford it 1 to 2 times a week, absolutely do it. Nick, do you have any tips on how to stop overeating? I'm good for most of the day, but once I get home at night and begin to relax, I can't stop myself from binging on foods in my house. Common problem, especially towards the end of the day for most people, right? Like you're home, you're relaxing, you're watching TV. You start to get a little bit bored sometimes, and sometimes we just eat out of boredom. One of the things that I do and I advise my clients to do is practice proper portion control. And I've said this time and time again, it's essential. If you're serious about losing weight or building muscle, I think practicing proper portion control is crucial for your development. So what I recommend for most people is, unfortunately, a lot of people are like, I don't want to do this because it sounds too OCD, but a food scale. And it doesn't have to be weighing out each meal. You could do all your meals in one prep and just weigh them all out in one setting, and then you have your meals prepped for the week. That's what I do. But I find that makes a big difference because, for example, if I have 7 ounces of salmon in front of me and 1 cup of brown rice and, I don't know, 2-3 cups of spinach, I don't even measure my greens, but I have that in front of me. Once that's done, that's it. I don't go back for seconds. I don't have dessert or anything like that. That's it. It's done. Because that's my meal and it's portioned out accordingly. And then I wait 2 or 3 hours and I have my next meal. So that's what works for me. And that's what works for most of my clients that I work with online on the nutritional plans. And that way, it also, when you're eating that frequently, it also helps, as I've mentioned before, stabilize blood sugar levels and your insulin levels. So you're not going up and down. You're not spiking your insulin levels, and you're craving sugar and you're craving carbohydrates. And no. So that's why I do recommend practicing portion control along with meal frequency. This usually helps most people stop and prevent them from overeating. And, if you're having small portions throughout the day and I'm going to get my next meal at this time, my next meal is going to come at this time, you're not likely to overeat because you're like, okay, I'm going to be eating again in the next 3 or 4 hours. So you don't need to eat that much, right? So that's what I recommend. And if that doesn't work, if you have a hard time, or if you are practicing portion control and then at the end of the day, you still shit the bed with your diet, that might be more of a psychological issue, right? And that might be something you need to talk to with someone else, like a therapist or a counselor, because there could be an underlying issue there, okay? But if it's just coming down to that you're hungry or you're bored or you're just craving sugar, I always start really dissecting your diet and say, okay, I'm going to start portioning out my meals accordingly based on your activity level, your weight, how much weight do you want to lose or how much weight do you want to gain, plug in your macronutrients, make sure you're getting good quality micronutrients. And again, make sure that you're evening out those macronutrients. That's crucial as well. And, a lot of times when I look at someone's diet, when they first come to work with me, I'll ask someone for a 3-day plan of what they typically do. And a lot of people, it's not that their diets are bad. Some people, their diets are actually pretty good, but the problem is that their macronutrients are imbalanced. So they might go their first 4 meals of the day with no fats, and it's just carbs and protein. And then maybe the last 2 meals of the day, they might do a little bit of fats, but then there's just basically tons of carbs and no protein. So it's usually a macronutrient imbalance that I see on most people's plans that cause these eating disorders in a lot of people. And that's, a little bit of tweaking on the plans and just making sure that you're balancing out those macronutrients. What I typically do, depending on the individual I'm working with, is I'll usually front load the carbohydrates and then I'll back load the fats towards the end of the day. So the fats allow us to stay fuller for a longer period of time, which if you're someone who tends to overeat in the evening, like most people do when they're done for the day and they get home and they're relaxing, by incorporating more fats into your diet, you're less likely to cheat and have those fluctuating blood sugar levels caused by the carbohydrate increase, right? So that's why I typically start to decrease carbs, increase fats towards the end of the day. And not with everyone, but with most people. Also, it depends on, what time of day do you work out? Are you someone who works out in the morning versus someone who works out in the evening? Maybe you work out in the late afternoon, midday. So that's where I'll plug in certain macronutrients around someone's workout time as well. But portion control, meal frequency, make sure that your macronutrients are balanced throughout the day and into the evening. And that usually helps for most people who suffer from overeating. Like I said, if it doesn't, that's an underlying issue. And I would go and talk to someone about that, therapist, counselor, okay? Next question. Another diet question. Hi, Nick, don't you get bored of eating the same thing every day? I feel like I need more variety in my diet, but at the same time, I want to stay in shape. What do you think about macros only plans? I think this type of plan would give me more flexibility with my diet. I think when you're saying macros only plans, I assume you're referring to the if it fits your macros diet, which I'm definitely not a fan of. And I've spoken about this quite a few times over the years. I'm a firm believer in micronutrients over macronutrients. Macronutrients are important, yes, but the micronutrients, which is the quality of the macronutrients, are more important. So to answer your first question, no, I don't eat the same thing every day. And I mean, I typically will stick with the same foods for a period of time. So for example, right now during the winter months, I typically will eat fish from October to, let's say, April. And in the summer, I'll switch over to white meats where I'll use chicken and turkey. And I just like to mix up my protein sources. I might do a chocolate whey isolate one day and I might do a vanilla whey isolate the next day. So I know it doesn't sound overly exciting, but it doesn't bother me eating, typically sticking to the same foods, but I don't eat the exact same foods every day. Some days I have oatmeal, some days I have Ezekiel bread, some days I have cream of rice for breakfast. So I switch up that as well. Sometimes I'll do peanut butter as my primary fat source. Sometimes I'll use extra virgin olive oil throughout the week as my primary fat fuel source. So it doesn't sound super exciting, but it's not the exact same thing every day. It wouldn't bother me eating the same thing every day. I mean, I don't like variables. I like to know exactly how I'm going to feel from my workouts, how I'm going to feel towards the end of the day. I don't have to worry about my energy levels fluctuating because I'm eating. Again, I'm balancing, like I said in the previous question, I'm balancing out my macronutrients accordingly and making sure I'm getting the quality of the food, the micronutrients in, so I have enough energy throughout the day so I don't have to rely on stimulants or processed sugar to give me an energy boost. So if you're someone who needs a lot of variety in your diet, it can be done without having to go on if it fits your macros diet. Like with people I work with, they'll tell you, like, I'll give them 4 meal options for, let's say, meal 3. And it doesn't, they're not going to be donuts and muffins and burgers and fries. But I mean, if you're looking for carbohydrates, for example, you could have brown rice, you could have quinoa, you could have sweet potatoes, you could have yams, you could have oatmeal, you could have cream of rice. For your protein sources, you get chicken breast, turkey breast, beans, lentils, red beans, kidney beans, cod, salmon. So and then when you look at your fat sources, as I mentioned, you could do avocado, you could do omega-3 eggs, you could do extra virgin olive oil, you could do natural peanut butter, almond butter. So there's all kinds of options to mix it up. But the problem when you're following diets, I think what you call, and I think you're referring to the same diet. If you're not, message me again, because when you say the macros only plans, I think you're talking about if it fits your macros diet. And if you're not, message me and I'll have to look into this diet if there's a new diet that I don't know about. But the problem with diets like that is they're not taking into consideration the micronutrients, the quality of your food. So you have to really pay attention to that. Are you getting enough fiber in your diet? Your quality, are you getting enough nutrients, vitamins, minerals? These are all important, right? It's not always just about losing fat and building muscle. You have to know internally what's going on with your body as well, right? So I wouldn't recommend following a diet just based on macros only. I would recommend doing a little bit more research. And if you don't know much about dietary nutrition, then you might want to work with someone who does, either myself, or you could work with another coach, dietitian, nutritionist, just for someone that can actually give you a little bit more detail into your plan and offer you that variety. Because I can promise you that, people I work with, they'll tell you they're not eating the exact same thing every day. They have options. Most of my clients have 3 to 4 options per meal at 5, 6 meals a day. So, that gives them easily 15, 20 different options that they can choose from. So there's lots of variety you can add your diet. Okay. So macronutrient diet only, or if it fits your macros diet, no, I would not advise anyone to do that. Next question. Hi, Nick. When I look at my physique, I notice that my lower body is much less muscular than my upper body. I'm currently training legs once a week, but would you recommend I train them more to help bring up this area? I was thinking 2 to 3 times a week. I think 3 times a week is a little bit overkill. Personally, I think if you're training your legs 3 times a week, you're probably not training your legs intense enough. If you're able to train your legs 3 times in 7 days, there's no way you're using enough intensity. But if you are having trouble bringing up that area, one thing I'd recommend is creating a 2-day split for your legs. And I've done this before with both men and women who struggle in that area. So for example, I might make the first leg workout primarily quad based, and then I'll make the second workout a primarily hamstring and glute and calf based. So that way you're not working the exact same muscle bellies. You're still technically working the agonist versus antagonist on opposing days. And what I'll usually do with most people who I put that plan or that training split into their actual 5 or 6 day training split, I'll put those 2 leg workouts on back-to-back days. So on day 1, I'll give them the quad dominant workout, which could consist of something like, say, barbell back squats, hack squats, leg press, leg extensions, walking lunges. This is an example. And then the day 2, I'll put them on a hamstring and glute and some calf workouts. So maybe the lying hamstring machine with some seated hamstring curls, straight leg deadlifts, some hip thrusts, some hip abductor machine if they're at a commercial gym, or some bench step ups if they're at a private facility. Just so that they're working more of the glutes and the hamstrings, and maybe give them some standing calf raises or seated calf raises. So that way they're not working, like I said, the same muscle bellies. So that's what I would advise you to do. Increase your frequency, but just give a little bit more detail to your quadriceps on one day so you can really come in and hit them hard. And then the next day you can hit your hamstrings and glutes hard. Because one of the mistakes a lot of people make when they do a leg workout, and if they're only training once a week, I see people do this all the time, is they'll usually target their quads for the first part of the workout, and then they'll save their hamstrings and glutes towards the end of the workout. Problem with that is you're not putting as much energy and focus into those muscle groups. So you start to really notice that area starts to lack detail. That's usually the case with a lot of guys, especially. Women usually do the opposite. They'll do a lot of butt and hamstrings, but they won't do much quad work. So I think it's good to balance out those muscle groups. So I recommend doing 2 leg days. And it doesn't have to be the way I split it up, but I find that does work really well. So one day being a quad dominant day, and the next day being a hamstring and glute day. The reason I do recommend putting those days on back-to-back days is because DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, usually takes about anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to kick in, usually that 48-hour mark. So for example, I usually train my legs on Tuesdays, or I train my quads on Tuesdays. And then by Wednesday, my legs are sore, but by Thursday, they're really sore. So DOMS is taking that 48 hours and it's kicked in. So what I'll typically do for me, I still do a 2-day leg split, and I'll do my quads on Tuesdays and I'll do my hamstrings and glutes on Wednesdays. So by Thursday, I can barely move. But I don't have to train my legs for another 7 days. So that works well for me. So I would try doing that, but I wouldn't take it up to 3 days. I think that's a little bit overkill. And don't forget too, if you're constantly training and not resting the muscle, it doesn't have a chance to grow. So it needs to recover. So the only way it's going to recover is go home, eat, replenish, get those nutrients into the muscle bellies, and that's how the muscle is going to grow. If you're constantly training it, it can never grow. And it's just, if anything, it might actually go backwards and you might atrophy. You might actually get smaller and less definition. So don't overtrain the muscle either. Okay, next question. Nick, I've been doing intermittent fasting for the past 3 weeks and really enjoy it so far. The only problem is on the days I work out with weights, I have no energy and really low strength. I fast between 7 p.m. and 1 p.m. and train 4 times a week at 8 a.m. Do you think I should break my fast on the days I train and eat something before I go to the gym? The problem is if you are, and I've spoken about this before, I think intermittent fasting is a fantastic diet. I really do. However, the problem with intermittent fasting, if you're trying to put on muscle and lose fat, it's not optimal. Okay, as is the case here, you can tell. Or if you're someone who trains heavy in the gym with weights, it's very hard to do that in a fasted state, especially if you're training like 8 in the morning at that point. So you're up for an hour, unless you've had a very late meal at say 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. In your case, 7 o'clock, you're almost going, you're going 13 hours without any food in your system, right? And longer after because you're not eating post-workout. So that's really hard to do. So that's where intermittent fasting gets a little tricky when you're trying to put on muscle and lose fat. But as I mentioned, I do think it's a great diet for health benefits. But in this case, you have to be a little bit, strategic with how you implement your workouts into your intermittent fast. So I wouldn't break your fast. If you enjoy intermittent fasting, continue to do it. My recommendation, though, would be you might want to get that last meal in at night a little bit later. So bump up. So you say you're starting your intermittent fast at 7 p.m. and going till 1 p.m. the next day. So if that were me, what I would do is I would probably try to stop my fast at say 10 p.m. at night, work out at 8 o'clock, because then at that point, it's only about 10 hours. So since you've had your last meal session, it'd be so bad. And then you can have, you can start your fast or finish your fast at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. That's what I would do. I'd also probably give myself a cup of coffee just to give an extra boost of energy, maybe a pre-workout shake, very low calories. Like I'm just talking like a pre-workout powder that's like 5 calories. So that will do nothing to your fast. Because if you enjoy fasting and you're finding that you feel better and your digestive system works better and you have more energy and you're sleeping better, stick with it. I don't suggest stopping it. But if you're working out at 8 o'clock in the morning, then yeah, you're going to have to be a little bit more strategic with your meal timing. Another option would be to actually train at like say 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because then at least you're eating in your fast, right? You've broken your fast at 1 p.m. So if you're eating at 4 p.m., you've had like 1 or 2 meals because that's your window of opportunity to eat. So you could do that as well. But I wouldn't recommend breaking your fast for 1 meal, because then you're not really intermittent fasting at that point. And if anything, that might actually, what that could actually do is spike your insulin levels, because your meal frequency is completely off. And now you're feeding the body only on the days you work out every 8 or 10 hours, and then you're not really fasting. So I would, if you're going to fast, be consistent with your fast and just try to either flip your workout to the later portion of the day or move up your fast and have your last meal at say 10:30, 11 o'clock at night for an 8 a.m. workout. All right. That's a good question. And I actually, that's a perfect example of why intermittent fasting is very tricky to use if you're a bodybuilder, or if you're just someone, again, who is just trying to put on muscle and lose fat. It's not an optimal diet to follow. But for the health benefits, absolutely, it's got tons of health benefits. So it's tricky, right? It's like, I want to put on muscle, but doing a fast is very hard to do. Okay, if you're someone who is serious about putting on muscle and losing fat. Okay. Nick, I read your most recent blog and liked most of it, but disagree with you when it comes to offering sales on a service. I think offering something at a reduced rate is a great way to help get more clients. Gyms use this strategy all the time, and it seems to work well for them. I don't work in your industry, but I would be open to trying something new if I knew I was getting a deal. Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, for sure. It's not that I'm against sales. I'm against sales on services, especially if you're offering a very high valued service. Like for myself personally, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I feel that I would be devaluing myself by offering someone a discounted rate who's never worked with me before. I feel it's a slap in the face to my current clientele base. If anything, I should be giving my current clients a discount or a deal on my services. These are the people that have been with me for 10 plus years supporting my business. So why am I going to give, this is just the way that my mind works. Why am I going to give the person who's brand new coming to my company to work with me a better deal or a better rate than the person who's been with me for 10 plus years, right? That's just the way my brain works. When it comes to a product, like, let's say the Grizzly Grabbers, there are times we do put these on sale, right? But it's not a service. So again, my issue is putting services, especially very high quality, high valued services on sale. I find it really devalues the person that is offering the service, and it kind of devalues the service. That's my opinion. So that's why I don't offer sales on my services or any of the trainers' services. Now, again, what we will typically do with our clients is we'll offer them promotional deals, right? Whether they do refer a client, for example, or if they buy a package and they buy let's say a larger package, they might get a discounted, 15% on 2 or 3 sessions, whatever it is at the time that we're running. But that's for our current clientele base. That is not something that we advertise to new clients. But that is something that I've made that decision from day one, and it's something that I stick with. Same thing with, if you go on our website, you'll see that all our rates are listed. A lot of personal training companies don't do that, but I feel it's very important to be transparent with people from day one. So when someone contacts me, they know exactly how much a private training session is, or if they want to book a partner training package, or if they want to join a small group class. All the information is on the site. There's no, come in for a consultation and let me tell you about my services and then try to sell them to you. It's like, no. This is what I sell, but I'm very confident in my level of services and my training experience that I can offer to you, what I bring to the table as your coach. So it's up to you if you want to move forward. If you do, great. If you don't and you want to shop around, that's okay as well. So I always feel it's in this industry, and I'm not talking about every industry, but I can only speak for my industry. It's important to show appreciation to your current clientele base, and those are the people that should be getting the deals and the discounts. Not the new people who are coming to your business, or who are finding you online, or who are finding you from some TikTok video or Instagram, and you're going to give them 15% off a package. Well, meanwhile, your client who's been with you for 10 plus years is paying you $200-300 more for that very same package. Doesn't make sense. I'm aware that gyms do it, and I've said this from day one. I think it's really shitty that gyms do that. I've never liked that. And you notice that a lot of these gyms that do these promotional deals, and you'll see in January, they all start running them. Join now and say 50% off for a 1-year membership and all this stuff. And it's also, what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of people who are just looking for deals, and it's going to, the gym is going to get too busy. And then your clients who've been paying you good money, they're not going to want to be in that gym anymore, because the gym is so busy now because you brought all these new people in who are on this deal. I've seen this happen with gyms. And then your good clientele base who weren't looking for a deal, they just wanted a place to train, they leave. And they end up at a higher gym, more expensive gym, like an Equinox, for example. I've seen it happen. Because like, look, we don't want a deal. We just want a place where we can train and not have to wait 15-20 minutes for a piece of equipment to use. And that's another reason why a lot of people go up to work with private trainers, so they can work in a private training facility, so they don't have to wait for equipment. They don't have to wait for all that. Again, obviously this depends on your budget, but you see where I'm going with this is that when you're constantly offering deals and sales, it's tacky. It looks cheap. It looks cheesy. And I just don't believe in it. I really don't. I never have. I never will. As I said, if anyone's going to get promotions and anyone's going to get deals or discounts, it's going to be my current clientele base who's been with me from day one, or have been with me for the past 5-10 years. It's not going to be the person who finds me next week or the person who finds me a month from now. No. All right. Last question. Hi, Nick. Only asking because I know you hate the question. How can I not get fat over the holidays? I do hate this question. I feel it's so redundant. It's been overplayed so many times now. I mean, you see this on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, trainers posting these holiday fit tips and how to stay in shape over the holidays, and then they're posting these stock photos next to their tips. I'm like, okay, enough. common sense, guys. You're going out for a few dinners, you're going to have some drinks over the next few days. Make sure you're working out regularly. Don't stop working out. Again, practice your portion control. I know a lot of trainers out there will say, hey, if you're eating a big dinner at night, make sure that you're still having your regular meals throughout the day. I actually typically go against that and say, well, if you're going to overeat at Christmas, I mean, everyone overeats at Christmas. I actually do the opposite, where I'll actually reduce my calories at the first portion of the day, just for this 1 or 2 days, right? That's what I do. And that's what I usually advise my clients to do. So there's different tips and strategies, and at the end of the day, it's just common sense. Watch what you eat. Make sure you continue to exercise. Done. Period. I mean, this is just a 2 or 3 day event. This is not going on for 6 or 7 weeks. So you're not going to get fat over the holidays unless you completely lose yourself and let go and are consuming thousands and thousands of calories and sitting on your ass for 5 days straight. Then yeah, you probably will gain some fat. But most people aren't doing that. You know, you're going to have 1 or 2 bad meals and you'll be right back on your diet again. So don't worry about getting fat over the holidays. I think I read an article recently where the average person gains like 0.6 pounds during the holiday season, which is probably mostly water. So don't worry about it. Anyway, that's it for this week's Q&A. Just as a reminder, guys, with the holiday season here, we still have our gift cards and our grabbers, which you can pick up at the gym, or you can DM me on Instagram and I will gladly mail you one of each or both together. And I'm at the gym until Saturday, December 24th. I will be there until 2 p.m. So if anyone wants to stop by, pick up a pair of grabbers or pick up a holiday gift card, DM me, message me, I'll be there. Anyway, guys, that's it. This episode will be going up on Thursday evening. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all so much. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching. Have a happy holiday season, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.